Cool. Perfect.
Hello and welcome to the second episode of the season for the Digital Den podcast. I'm joined by Aberdeen footballer Tommie Hoban with 121 career appearances as of April 10th, 2021. Tommie, it's a pleasure to have you on the podcast. What a career you've had.
All right,
You've gone.
Thanks for having me on.
You've gone to Watford. You've gone to Blackburn and finally Aberdeen. How are you today?
Yeah, no, I'm good. Yeah, I'd say my career obviously started off at Watford, where I'm fairly local to the area. I was actually at Arsenal as a kid until age 14, and I got released from there age 14, and then signed for Watford, and then sort of came through the youth system of academy football at Watford. Made my debut at 17 and was there until age 24, I think I was 24, 25, something like that. And unfortunately, I had a sort of a difficult period from injury with various injuries from sort of age 21 to about 25, 26, so until this season really. And then I came on loan to Aberdeen when I was 24, played a little bit here, but unfortunately got injured again. But then once I did manage to get back fit, Aberdeen were interested in signing me again, and I sort of really enjoyed it up here. Sort of loved the area. Very different to what I'm used to down in London, but I think it's a really sort of beautiful city. The countryside and stuff's amazing as well. So I wasn't sort of hesitating to come back up, and I've had a good season up here, and hopefully we can finish it strongly now.
Yeah, I mean, from coming to not so sunny Scotland from London, that must have been a big change. How did you make that adjustment? How was the switch?
To be honest, as you say, it's a completely different completely different area. Sort of the way of life up here is very different. In London, everything is so sort of go, so hectic. You feel like you're always rushing somewhere, doing something. But I'm living sort of just outside of Aberdeen in Peter Coulter. Not sure if you know, and we're kind of literally almost on a farm, sort of in the middle of nowhere, and it's worlds apart from sort of what I'm used to down there. And just every morning, looking out the window, just seeing the fields and sheep and cows out the window, like it's amazing, really. And kind of feels like we're just sort of on holiday at the start, and obviously getting used to it a little bit now. And once winter came, it was definitely very different. Long dark days, very cold, a lot of snow as well for a month or so. But it's really enjoyable. And to be honest, probably having lived up here now, my girlfriend and stuff as well. But we talk about where our next move will be, and I don't think we could get anywhere much better than this, to be honest. I think this is kind of the life that we both like, and hopefully we can find somewhere, either stay here in Aberdeen or find somewhere else that's close to this. But
so you talk about how happy you are in Aberdeen and how fun it is. Do you remember your debut goal or your debut match for Aberdeen?
Appearance.
Yeah.
I do. Yeah, for Aberdeen. So it was against Burnley. It was actually quite a big game. So it was a Europa League qualifying game in the summer of 2018, I think it was. So it was in July, like very early in the season. About 3 or 4 days before, I didn't even know that I was gonna. I was training with Watford, actually in Austria. I think we were on pre-season tour, and then I sort of got a call from the manager up here who was interested in me coming, taking me on loan for the season. And I wasn't sort of going to be featuring too much at Watford that year, so they agreed for me to come up here on loan. And then I trained on, I think, maybe Tuesday or something, or maybe the Monday, and then the game I think was on the Wednesday. And I didn't, I wasn't sure if I was going to be starting or not, but I ended up starting, and that was my first game of the season, first game in a long while. So I'd sort of been injured the year before, and it went very well. We drew 1-1, and then had a second leg a week later. down in England at Burnley, and unfortunately we lost that one in the end in extra time. But we pushed a very good sort of Premier League team, sort of all the way, and it was sort of baptism of fire, like so to speak, like sort of like thrown straight into it. But it's probably one of the bigger games of my career, biggest games that I've played in against a really top team. So definitely one that I won't forget.
I mean, you've played with 3 different clubs. You're very respected in their league. Watford in the Championship, Blackburn, of course, in the Scottish Premier League, and then you've got Aberdeen as well, who are 4th. Who's the hardest player you've ever had to play against? He plays a defender, so it must be quite hard sometimes to keep all the attackers at bay.
Yeah, I'd say probably the biggest names I played against Chelsea when I was down with Watford in the FA Cup. So I think that game they were probably the biggest name players I played against, and I'm actually a Chelsea fan myself, so I played against Drogba in that game, and he was sort of one of my sort of boyhood heroes sort of growing up. So that was amazing. Who else played? Like I think Diego Costa as well, who's was on fire for Chelsea that season. A really big player. He's likes of Fabregas, Willian, sort of all these kind of top players that played at Chelsea were played in that game. So that was pretty special. And as I say, sort of being a Chelsea fan, playing at Stamford Bridge against these guys, it's the kind of stuff that I've been sort of dreaming of since a kid. So it was amazing. Unfortunately, we did lose 3-0, but we'll try to forget about that and just focus on the positives of playing against my heroes. So, but yeah, no, I'd say Drogba is probably the biggest player that I'd like to pick. One of them, he's the most memorable and probably the biggest player I played against. But he was coming to the end of his career then, so he wasn't too hard.
You describe yourself as a Chelsea fan. If you had to rate your top 3 players of all time at Chelsea, I'm a Man City fan, so if you had to rate your top 3 players, who would it be?
Top 3 players of all time. Number 1 for me is easy, John Terry. So I'm a defender, and so naturally I sort of always looked up to John Terry, tried to learn off him, and then he's obviously Chelsea captain, was England captain. So John Terry number 1. Top 3 Chelsea players, got to be Frank Lampard number 2 as well. He's incredible for Chelsea over the years. And then number 3 would be Drogba. Definitely, I'd say Drogba. Yeah. So I don't think John Terry played in that game, and Frank Lampard left by the time we played them. But the Drogba's probably the only one that I got to play against. So
yeah, still very good. I mean, we're just coming out of lockdown now as we're filming this, and we were in lockdown last year. I know for footballers it was quite hard as well to keep your fitness up and keep your form continuously going, especially when you're not playing any games. So how did you cope with that?
It was very tough for me personally as well. So I was actually injured for all of the previous season. So the year before I come to Blackburn, I picked up quite a bad knee injury, which sort of ruled me out, and my contract at Watford was finished, and I couldn't sign anywhere until I was fit. So it was a very tough time for me, because then as lockdown kind of started, just as I was sort of coming back, and I sort of needed to go into teams to train and try and get myself a contract somewhere. But obviously I couldn't do any of that because of the first lockdown, and the clubs weren't sure what was happening themselves, all the players were off. So I was kind of doing a lot of running and stuff myself at the time. But then as I was like coming back from injuries, my knees still weren't perfect, so I was still in a bit of pain, and it was quite challenging. But I got a program. I found a strength and conditioning coach who gave me a program sort of to work on myself from home. So it was kind of in the garden, just trying to make a makeshift gym out of the garden, just like with steps, with the little boxes that you could jump on, just anything. I get my hands on rocks. I was holding for weights, putting them in a rucksack, trying to get hold of weights. But as I'm sure maybe yourself, a lot of your listeners will realize, like, every single weight seemed to be sold out in the whole of the country. You couldn't get your
Yeah.
hands on sort of any gym equipment. So it was quite tough. But and yeah, obviously we didn't know when the season was going to start again. So, footballers were having to keep fit and just keep waiting, just trying to hear some news. And because, once they make a decision that it could start 2 or 3 weeks later, you could be playing games. And if you're not fit, that's when, injuries happen and then you're not going to perform well and stuff like that. So it was a very uncertain time. And but I just tried to, keep myself as fit as I can so that I'd be ready to go into a team once the team did go back. But at the same time, I didn't know if a team was going to take me. So sort of mentally, it was quite tough as well, just having to, with the uncertainty of what was going to sort of happen with my career at that point. But thankfully, things did work out in the end. And I eventually got a call from Aberdeen who were interested in me coming back up here. And yeah, sort of, that was getting on 9 months or so ago now. So yeah.
I mean, many people, I'm sure many footballers, of course, would sympathise with you, especially trying to keep that high performance, because as a footballer, it's very competitive to get into a squad and stay in a squad. And if you've gone through injuries, it makes it even harder. So I'm sure many footballers can harmonise with what you're saying. As you played for Aberdeen, do you have like a specific, or Watford, in fact, do you have a specific like atmosphere that you can remember that you just think, wow, like, was there like a specific point in a game where you thought the atmosphere is fantastic, it's getting us riled up to play and so on and so on?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think in the 2014-2015 season, we got promoted with Watford from the Championship to the Premiership, and I played quite a big part in that season as well. And I remember in the run-in, all the games were getting bigger and bigger. Every game was, a must-win game because the other teams around us are winning as well. And I remember we played Middlesbrough, I think it was, at home, who were also kind of up there in the playoff, quite a good team. And it was, a big game, and I think it was an Easter Monday as well, so it was bank holiday. So the stadium was full, everyone was off work, everyone was buzzing for the game. And I just remember sort of during that game, we won 2-0, and I think when we scored the second goal, the crowd, like, just the noise was incredible. Just like everyone could really, whenever you score a goal, you get the big cheer, but this was something really special. Like the whole stadium was rocking, and we really started to believe that this is going to be our year. And it did end up being our year. We went on to get promoted about maybe a month or so, 6 weeks later after that. So, but yeah, I really remember sort of that moment after scoring that second goal, like really big celebration of the team and the crowd, like just going crazy for a really long period of time. And there was, it's moments like that I think we play for as footballers, because there are definitely a lot of tough times in the career, a lot of low moments, but when you get the high moments like that, they really are sort of difficult to recreate outside of football, really, and that is what it's all about for us. So, yeah.
I mean, you talked about John Terry being a big figure for you in football. Is he like your main role model, or do you have other people that you think as role models in the sport?
Yeah, I think growing up, he was probably my main sort of role model. He was in the prime of his career as I was sort of a young, around 10 to 18 years old, something like that. And so he would be the main player that I looked at. But as we get older, obviously he's not playing anymore now. I'd say people like Virgil van Dijk, I sort of look at as being one of the sort of best defenders in the world at the minute. I think there's another guy at PSG, Marquinhos, I think very good. So yeah, I try to look at as many players as I can, sort of at the top level in my position, and sort of learn off them. So I think as a footballer, you're constantly developing, constantly learning. Be it an 18-year-old just starting out, or a 34-year-old comes to the end of your career, you can always improve and find areas of the game to improve on. And I think looking at other people is the best way to do that. So I'm constantly trying to analyze players, and yeah, I'd say at the minute probably Van Dijk is probably for me the most probably all-round complete defender. He's at the top of his game. So I try to look at at him a lot as well. Yeah.
So how do you make you're a youth footballer? How do you make the change and make the switch to say, I'm going to take this out of a hobby context and I'm going to make this into something that I want to make a living out of. I want to be a footballer for a club like Aberdeen or a club like Watford. How do you make the switch?
Yeah, it's a good question, but to be honest, if I to answer that honestly, I think I've been I signed for Arsenal when I was, I think, 7 or 8 years old, and you're kind of, that's when I would say the career starts. I mean, it's obviously not quite as serious as it is now at that age, but it is definitely serious, and you're aware of how serious it is. You're constantly being prepared and sort of molded, into becoming a footballer, and they're preparing you for that journey from age 8 or 9 years old. I mean, when I was 10, there was sometimes we played in tournaments in front of 4,000 or 5,000 people, which was, amazing at the time. And I think, just, being exposed to that from such a young age is already sort of preparing you for what it's going to be like when you're older. And I think, I think that the journey starts from then, really, and you don't really realize, I'd say, a moment where suddenly, right, this is it, it's serious now. It kind of felt serious all the way through. You're always competing for a spot in that starting 11, be it as a 10-year-old, a 14-year-old, or a 24-year-old in the first team. And yeah, so I've kind of felt like I've been on that journey since then, really. And yeah.
Yeah. So when you moved to Aberdeen, were there any nerves? Obviously, you were just coming out of an injury. Any nerves about fitting to the squad, or any nerves about playing for a new team?
Definitely, 100%. I'd say the nerves were more probably, from within myself, really, because basically I started my career started quite well when I was young. I played quite a lot of football between 18 and 21, but then from 21 to 26, I hardly played any games because I had about, I've had 10 operations now on different various things, and I just kept on getting one injury after the other. And so when I did, get the opportunity up here, I signed. There was a lot of doubt and sort of nervousness from within me, like, am I going to get injured again? Can I still do this? It's been so long since I've played regular football again. Am I the player I sort of once was? These are kind of thoughts that would sort of creep into my head, but at the same time, I'm quite, I'd like to think I'm quite strong mentally, and although I would have them thoughts, at the same time I'd be, reassuring myself, like, yes, I can do this, I am good enough. And I think that self-belief is vital as a footballer, and definitely was, very important in me sort of getting back this season. And I played, almost 40 games now this season. It's been the most football I've played in a single season my whole career. So yeah, it has worked out very well. And but yeah, I think, having that belief is very important, especially the early part of the season. And I think, it's important in whatever you do in life, you've got to really believe in yourself to achieve what, we all can achieve. So, yeah.
So talk us through how you get ready for a match. Obviously, as a defender, you have a very important role along with other people, attackers, midfielders. But when people have confidence in the defence, it allows the attackers to push forward and obviously propel, and then success comes from goals. So how do you get prepared for such an important role? Yeah.
I think what you're trying to say is we're the most important players on the pitch, which I agree with.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think obviously you've got to keep yourself as focused and sort of mentally switched on as you possibly can. And so for me personally, it's making sure I get a good night's sleep the night before. I'll start thinking about the game the night before. Bit like visualization, stuff like that, which I think is very important. Visualizing how I want the game to go, and my various things that could come up, in my position in the game. So I'll kind of think a bit about them, but then at the same time, I don't like to think too deep about it, because when you start thinking too much, you can kind of become mentally fatigued and tired, and then by the time the game comes, you're kind of you're too stressed and you're too worked up. So I'd like to have a sort of find a balance between being relaxed and being focused on what I've got to do. And I know they kind of probably contradict each other, but it's quite a difficult thing to sort of find that balance, and something that I'm still sort of working on myself, trying to get myself in the right frame of mind going into a game. But yeah, so then on the morning, I try to get a bit of a sleep if I can, which is easier on away games because at home I've got two kids which get up. They both get up very early, so once they're up, it's hard to sleep. But then I kind of have a pre-match meal about 3 and a bit hours before the game, and then we head to the game. Either I drive there myself at home, or we get the bus if we're away. And then we get there about an hour and a half before, and then that's when we start getting ready. Might have a little meeting, go through final bits of tactics, stuff like that. And then it's just final bits of preparation. We have some sort of supplements and stuff. We might take caffeine, some energy drinks, stuff like that. Last bit of food, little snack, and then we go out to warm up 45 minutes before. That's when you're really getting your head focused on the games, getting your body ready, warm, running through your last bits, just mentally getting yourself as focused as you can. And then once the game comes, it's time to just get in that zone and stay focused and in that zone for the next 90 minutes. And then when it's done, it's chill, relaxed.
So
after 3 points in the bag.
After you finish the game, how do you wind down? Because I'm sure there's a lot of adrenaline. If you just got a clean sheet, it's massive. And you propose your team to move further up the table or get, as you said, 3 more points. How do you wind down? How do you relax?
I like to, as I say, hopefully it's after 3 points and I can enjoy the evening a bit more. But if it's a home game, I'll come home. I'll see the kids before they go to bed. They're, a very sort of easy way to forget about football once you get home and you see them. They just like chill you out. Well, they don't physically chill me out because they'll be running about, tiring me out still, but just mentally, you switch off from football and start focusing on them again. And then I'm quite into my food and stuff as well. So usually, missus will cook like a nice sort of meal at the minute. And sort of because of lockdown, there's we can't really go to any nice restaurants, so we try to make a nice sort of meal on a Saturday night or something like that, or I either cook something nice or get a takeaway, one or the other. And then just maybe put on a movie, sit down, relax, eat some nice food and chill really. But then obviously in football, we might have another game 3 or 4 days later, so that kind of chill period doesn't last long, because then straight away you're having to get yourself ready for the next game, recover, and get ready to go again. So, yeah.
I mean, you scored 6 goals as a defender, which is quite odd for a defender to score goals in the first place. So congrats on that. When you scored those goals, how does it feel? Because as I said, it's very, very rare for a defender to score goals.
Well, to be honest, I probably should score a few more too. I think as a defender, obviously you don't score too many, but I'd like to get at least sort of 3 a season. So I think I've got 2 so far this season. So if I can get 1 more, I'll be happy with that. But But yeah, no, it's an amazing feeling scoring goals, especially when it's a big goal in a game or a winning goal, stuff like that. But for me personally, I would always take a clean sheet over a goal as a defender. So, obviously this season it probably hasn't had the same impact as it has in previous seasons. When the fans are there and you score, then it really is special. Start singing your name, stuff like that. It makes you feel really good. But this year we haven't got any of that, but yeah, as I say, as a defender, you might not believe us, but genuinely keeping a clean sheet, I would always take that all day over scoring a goal, and that's the real sort of success and what I get sort of my best feelings from football. So, yeah.
Going back to last lockdown, I mean, some people took up some hobbies, whether it's like learning an instrument or learning to cook or developing the cooking skills. Did you have anything? Did you take up anything new? Did you try and get your hands on with anything?
Over the years I've done a few things actually, but in lockdown, so as I said, so with my injuries and stuff, it was quite an uncertain time, and I wasn't 100% sure what was going to be happening with football. The opportunities that I'd have. Would I have opportunities to get back into the game? Would my body be in a position to cope with football again, stuff like that. So I was almost sort of half planning for life after football as well. And I started studying a little bit with my dad's a financial advisor, and I've kind of got a little bit into that through him. And I started studying, to take the first exam for that, which I still actually haven't fully got around to doing, but I will. It's in my sort of my long-term plans to continue with that now. And yeah, potentially that could be a career for our football, because it's something that as footballers, we all have to face that. The majority of people retire around the age of 35, 36, and you're still a young man at that stage. You've got another 30 years of your life to go, sort of working career-wise. So football's only the first part of our sort of career journey. So it's something that I'm definitely gonna we'll try to prepare for, and we will have to prepare for. And then in the past, this wasn't in lockdown, but I've also started learning Spanish as well in the past.
Cool.
So at Watford, there was quite a lot of Spanish players, and that sort of sparked an interest in that. And I can still speak a little bit of Spanish very slowly, and probably not that well, but I can do it a little. I can speak a little bit. So yeah, that's another thing that I've done in the past. And then, as I said, I'm quite into cooking anyway, so I'm always trying to come up with a nice little new recipe, something like that. And
So you talked there about football is such a short career, especially if you look at it in perspective. 20 years, 25 years maximum, roughly. It's very hard. I think defenders, you have a bit more. Attackers is where they get the short straw a bit, and then goalkeepers, obviously, they can go on and go on. So how
play to their 80.
Yeah. I mean, Claudio Bravo, I think, was 45, and he kept playing for Man City. So
He's 45. Wow.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Yeah. So you look at where you are in life now and your career so far. What do you want to be remembered as in your individual clubs, or in all of them respectively together?
I'd say, to be honest, like firstly and foremost, and football's one thing, but in wherever I sort of go in life, I think I would like to just be remembered as a good person. So I'd like to make an impact on the people I work with day in, day out, my teammates, the staff around the training ground, coaches, fans, stuff like that. I'd like people just to think I was a good person, and not for me wanting to be thought of as a good person just because I want to be a good person in my life. And so I think that's the first thing. But then from a football point of view, I'd say I'd like to at one club somewhere where I find sort of my long-term home, I would like to be remembered as a club sort of legend, so to speak, something like that. So to be part of like a really successful team that did something special at a club, and be that promotions, be that winning trophies, cups, leagues, whatever that may be, just be part of a special team and sort of go down in the history of a club for them kind of reasons. And then you sort of do that by keeping as many clean sheets as I can, putting in solid, reliable performances, and
I've got a question, 3 questions about your teammates in Aberdeen. It's 3 short ones about how well you know them, and so on and so on. I'll start off with the first one. Who's the hardest man in the team? Who do you not want to mess with the most?
The hardest man in the team. It's quite a tough one. Probably surprise a few people. There's a young boy who played a couple of games recently, left back Jack McKenzie. He's quite tough, Jack McKenzie. Like, he gives you he's a really nice guy. I actually really like him, and like very quiet as well. But he's one of them, he's got a look in his eye that you wouldn't want to mess with him, sort of thing. So I would say him.
Best dress sense in the team.
Best dress other than myself. I'll give you an honest answer. There's a few boys that do go for it a little bit, and I'm not going to give you sort of a single answer there. I'll give you a few. the few that make an effort. I'd say the few that make an effort would be Johnny Hayes, Dylan McGeoch, and Mikey Devlin sometimes as well.
And then final of those three short questions, who's the funniest in the team? Who cracks you guys up the most?
Funniest, the person who's coming out with all the banter and the jokes all the time is probably Johnny. You don't want to mess with Johnny because he'll always come back with something better.
Great. Yeah. As you said, football is quite a short career. Have you thought if the opportunity arose, punditry or maybe even managing?
I'd say both I've sort of thought about in the past. Whether they'd be a long-term career, I'm not sure. Coaching is one that, I've sort of flicking thinking, some days I think, I definitely want to be a coach. Other days I think, oh, maybe it's not, not for me. I want to do something different other than football. But I think, coaching, managing is definitely a potential one because, football is all I've ever known, and it's what I'm good at, what I understand, what I, sort of excel at, so to speak. So I think to leave it behind and just, once I do retire, will be difficult. And all the skills that I've sort of acquired over the years, I don't know if that would be the best thing to do as well, because I feel like I'd like to give back to sort of young players as well and help develop people coming through, because there's some coaches that have had a big impact on my development as a footballer and a person, and I think I'd like to sort of have a similar impact on people as well. So I think the coaching management route is definitely a possibility. Punditry maybe as well, but maybe not as a regular one, but it's now and then.
When you talk about managing, we've talked about your role model in football, as in like your player wise. Do you have like a role model managing wise, or someone that you highly respect? I'm sure you respect many, but do you highly respect it's very influential to you?
I wouldn't say as much as as a player do I look at a manager as a role model, because I'm not 100% certain if that's something I want to do yet. But I would say for me, the top managers or the top manager in the world, is Guardiola. Everyone probably says it's a sort of easy answer to say, but I genuinely think he is. I mean, the football that he gets everyone to play at, all the clubs he's been at, is just incredible. And then also just the way he seems to speak about his players, the team, he just seems I think his style of management just seems very, very good and very all the players seem on board, whether you're starting week in, week out, or if you play 2 or 3 games a season. Everyone seems to be quite positive and sort of bought into his plan and stuff. So I think that's the main thing as a manager. You need to get everybody on board and everyone to sort of buy into your vision, sort of to come with you on that journey. And I think he seems very good at doing that. So
I mean, Pep plays quite quick, attacking, high tempo, tiki-taka style football. Is that something that you like to watch, and would you like to play that? Or do you like to play?
Yeah, definitely. I think I need to keep on working on my own game to get to that level. But but no, I think it's obviously a very exciting style of football, and I think on their day when they play well, I think they're the best team in the world at the minute, Man City, and I think he's obviously they've got a team full of top players, even if he wasn't there, but I think he's made all of them players even better, and I think he's done that wherever he's gone. Really, he's really improved players individually. So that's a sign of a good coach as well. And it's I definitely am more for that kind of football. I think it's a very attractive sort of the on the eye style of football, and winning in that way is, I think, more enjoyable. So
You've gone through your career, 121 career appearances, 6 goals. Do you have any advice for any footballers, any young defenders watching, or attackers or midfielders?
I think I won't go into sort of in-depth, detailed defensive advice. But I just say my advice to any footballer, sort of young footballer out there is, I would say the number one thing is you have to really believe in yourself, because it really is a hard journey. And if you look at the stats, the amount of people that make it, it's so small. Less than 1% of boys that start off, whatever, end up making it. So if you don't believe in yourself, there's going to be plenty of other people that don't believe in you as well. So you're pretty much finished then. So I think if you deep down have that belief that you are good enough, and you then put in the work to go with it, the hard work to go with it, because that's another vital point. You have to work really hard, on your game, sort of technically, physically, tactically, mentally, everything. If you have that belief within you, and you put in that hard work, I genuinely believe that anyone can make it if they just really go for it with everything they have. And be that football, be that anything in life, I think self-belief is the vital ingredient for me.
I've got one more little question, actually a little task for you, a little game. You have 30 seconds to grab an item that you think best represents you. I'll start the time now. You can have a little
best
think.
Represents me. Okay, let me got 30 seconds. Got to find what's in this room. Here we go. Best represents me. I've got one.
Perfect.
So this is my, as we've touched on. Obviously, I've had a bit of a tough time with injuries and stuff over the years. So this is my muscle gun here, which is right next to my bed. And every night before I go to sleep, put this on, get my missus to run it around the whole body in this nice little massage. Relax me, make me feel good, and get the legs ready for the next day. So wouldn't go anywhere without my muscle gun.
Great. Thank you for being on the podcast, Tommie. You're an inspiration to many footballers and many Aberdeen fans, I'm sure, who are listening and watching. Be sure to follow and subscribe on our platform: Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Music and /iTunes, YouTube, and SoundCloud. I am searching the Digital Den. Once again, thank you for recording the podcast with us, Tommie. Episode 2 ending now.
No worries. Thanks, Shayne. Appreciate it. Cheers.